Alright, got a big project lined up. The post-bag video for this probably won't be released before I actually start releasing parts of this. But what we have here is a LED view meter for, let's zoom out a little bit, there we go. Well, I guess it's not for anything, it's just an LED view meter. It's got 10 LEDs that I believe go across or up in some format in response to audio signal coming in from the mic. A lot of components on this one, so let's just go ahead and get started right away. Of course, I've gone and forgotten to put my solder out. Oh no, there it is. Alright, so turn the soldering iron on, get the solder set up, grab my little brass squidgy thing, and let's decide where we're going to start. I think we'll start with resistors as usual. We'll go ahead and start with this 2.2K resistor here. Now, there are actually two sets of 2.2K resistors. There are these, which are the, let's see, gold I believe is 10% tolerance. And then there's these blue ones, which I believe are 1% tolerance. Now, there's only one place where there's a 2.2K resistor that's kind of not in line with the rest of them, and that's up here in the amplification circuit for the microphone. So I'm going to go ahead and use this one over here. I was going to pre-bend all of the leads with my neat little lead bending tool here, but the pitch of the leads on the board is actually smaller than the smallest gauge on the board, so we'll just have to bend these by hand because this board is actually very, very tightly populated. It's going to take quite a bit of work to complete, but I think it'll be fairly rewarding. This will be one of the more component busy projects that I've built on the channel. There we go. And there we go. Using my new tip. It's a chisel tip, but it's sufficiently small that I don't think the chisel really matters except for doing surface mount. So I'm going to have to order the correct size because I accidentally ordered the wrong size. Alright, so continuing in with the components up here at the top, let's go ahead and do, we'll start with the 47K resistors. We'll start populating those. So I'll just quickly, oops, there we go. Just pull those free of the tape that's holding them together. There we go. Alright, 47K. So, one of those is going to go here. Stay in shot there, Chris. And then another 47K goes here. It's going to be a very colorful board. And then, let's see, where else do these 47Ks go? I like it when a kit manufacturer populates the board with the values of the resistors and other components. I doubt that any kit builder or kit making company is watching this, but populating the board with your component values is really a very nice feature to do on your kits. Alright, let's see. So where are the rest of the 47Ks? It's going to be kind of like, where's Waldo? Here we go. With some of these components, figuring out where they go. Let's see. Bent that one a little tight, and now it's loose in the board. Oh well. 47K goes here. Alright. Continuing on. Another one goes here. Let's see, there's 3 more. So there, and there. All right. All right, so 47K here. Oops. And 2 more. Whoops. I just pinged that across the room. There we go. Alright. And then here. I don't know if there's going to be enough detail on the video. Probably not. Let's change the focus point ever so slightly. Let's bring it down to about here. That's good. Starting to get a little warm. It was really cold in this room a little earlier. But I think I'm gonna take my robe off because now I'm too warm. Alright, now let's go ahead and solder those into place. Right, there's that L for those of you that were complaining. Just apply a little bit of solder. You don't have to use a ton. Just enough to make a nice little meniscus on the component. And just work your way through. Just like that. There we have it. That looked like a cold solder joint there for a second. There we go. Just keep working across. And there we go. All right. Now I need my clips, which I forgot to get out of the drawer. I'd love to get a shock insulation stand for my mic so that every time I touch the table it doesn't, make that noise. But that's not currently in the budget for this channel. Hopefully soon, maybe. Maybe I'll ask for one for Christmas. Maybe get a really nice microphone. Anyway, so, oops, well, there goes that leg. Heaven knows where it is. I'll find it in my bare feet later. Although, the weather here in northern Canada is very rapidly becoming wearing woolly socks around the house all the time weather. I believe the high today was 6 degrees Celsius. It was actually supposed to snow on Sunday, but it looks like that got cancelled. It was just cold and rainy. And by raining, I mean sheets of water falling out of the sky. It was really quite intense for a bit there. Alrighty, so what should be our next value of resistor? I'm going to kind of work from the top down, so let's grab our 10K resistors. They're over here. And I'll show you what I do with these, because I don't think I did it on camera earlier. You just kind of tug on one end, or tug them apart, and they come loose. A big pile of signal diodes is going to be nice boring work, but we'll get through it. Alright, I'm definitely gonna take my robe off here, getting way too warm. There we go. Okay, 10K resistors, go. I'll include a link in the description, if I remember, to a search string that should find these kits for you if you want to order one. I actually have another friend who likes to build the kits along, so I'll send him a message on Facebook whenever when I'm planning to build one, so that he can order it, and then he builds it along with me on the video. All right, so just gonna work our way through the 10K resistors, playing our little game of component Where's Waldo. Let's see, 100K, 33K, 10K, there we go. This is going to be a very colorful board even without the LEDs going, because of all the different, I think I already said this, but all the different component values. There's some pretty colorful resistors. Like we've got the 2.2K resistors, which are red, 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 and then 33K, which are orange, orange, orange. 47 ohm resistors, which the 4.7 series resistors, which start with yellow and violet. And then we've got some 560s, which start with green and blue. There we go. And we've got 3 more 10K resistors. Yep, they go right there. This is probably going to be a very satisfying build. All right. Now we just go ahead and, oops, that is not a spool of solder. There we go. Alright, and then just the same soldering procedure. I'd like to mention, in my Game Boy Advance SP modding video, when I was soldering the USB lead onto the board, I did something very unusual. I placed solder on the tip of the soldering iron first, and then touched it onto the board. I got scolded in the comments by Fanatical for that. There was actually a reason I did it that way for that particular video that I did not explain at the time and probably should have. The reason why I did it there, and I'll go ahead and link to the video right about here. The reason I did it that way for that was because there was so very little space on the board, and I left myself just a very tiny amount of room to solder it. I decided to put solder onto the tip of the iron and carry it to the joint. That's not a normal thing that you should do, but in that case, due to space constraints, I chose to do it in that fashion. But normally what you do is you place the soldering iron, let the joint heat up for a bit, and then apply the solder to the joint. And that way you don't get little sticky soldery bits all over the place. You get the little peaks that happen when you melt solder without flux. That is another problem that I run into with, oops, I've got a bit of a dry solder joint. That's a bit of a problem that I run into with my SMD soldering technique, is that the solder gets a little peaky sometimes, because I'll place solder on the board first and then solder the component onto the existing solder. Now, that can also be alleviated by getting solder paste. You can get surface mount soldering paste, stuff that you actually have to keep in the fridge, but you put a little bit on the board, and then you stick the component into the paste, and the paste is very high flux content with solder powder in it, and then you take your soldering iron to it and the flux melts, and so does the solder powder. Being as it's powdered solder, it melts very quickly. Alrighty, so oops, I forgot some leads. I'm actually taking a page out of Julian Eilett's book. I've got an old script model here that I'm going to start putting the leads of components that I trim off into, and that way I'll have little pieces of wire that I can use for jumpers or little extensions or whatever. I used to just throw them away, but then Julian pulls in this giant bottle of little bits of wire, and he's like, yeah, I'll just use a couple of these for this thing. And I thought to myself, gee, that's a brilliant idea, so I will emulate it. Alrighty, so the next option here, let's go with the 33K resistors, which are very orange. They're orange, orange, orange. There's another resistor that I independently called creamsicle resistors, because they were 3, I believe it's 8, 38K, orange, white, orange, you know, because it's orange on the outside and then the white in the center, so it's a creamsicle. And then I was amused later on watching, again, one of Julian Eilett's videos. I believe he called them orange creamsicles as well, or something similar. Oop, there goes another piece of wire on the floor for me to find with my feet later. Alright, 33K. 33K. This is probably going to be a fairly rambly video. I'll just kind of pick various different subjects and just kind of stream of consciousness to keep the dialogue up while I'm working on these resistors. Alright. There's those, and then we've got 3 more, which means there's another row of 33K. Yep, right there. Of course, me doing my little OCD, making sure the values are all facing in the same way, so that it looks visually nice. There's no electrical reason to phase resistors one way or another, but especially in a project like this that is so heavily populated, I think it'll look really nice with all of the resistors lined up in the same direction so that they're all patterned correctly. If I was giving this to one of my friends as a gift, I'd probably leave one of them backwards in relation to all of the others, just to drive them nuts. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and solder those 33Ks down. Again, that was orange, orange, orange. If you're not tremendously familiar with resistor values. And that's actually why I'm not time-lapsing this video like I used to. I'd say, okay, I'm just going to time-lapse these resistors in. And that was a good method of filming for a while, but then I realized that I am kind of aiming my channel towards people that don't have a lot of expertise, so making sure that I discuss each topic fairly thoroughly and make sure everything is very clear is better than just zipping through the whole thing. Alright, so there's all our 33Ks down. They're all nice and even and OCD approved. I don't actually have OCD, I'm just picky about certain things. OCD is a very serious condition that probably shouldn't be joked about, but everybody does. It's a socially acceptable norm that probably shouldn't be. But whatever. There are a lot of socially acceptable norms that probably shouldn't be. Alright, well, I'm not too sure when that cut out, or when I forgot to turn it on, but just to recap, we've done a 2.2K resistor here, we've done our 47K resistors here, and here, then we've done our 10K resistors here, and here, and then we've done our 33K resistors here and here, and then, and there. And then, yeah, so that's where we are so far. Now, continuing on, let's do some 4.7K resistors. So we'll just go ahead and separate those out like I did before. Of course, I may not have actually filmed that part, because I think I forgot to turn my camera on at some point. Either that or it reached the maximum file size and stopped recording, so that is also a possibility. Anyway, so 4.7K, we're looking at yellow, violet, red, so 4.7 and then 2 zeros for 4.7K. I was discussing it at some point, either to a not running camera or maybe it was running, but how I decided that instead of time-lapsing these little projects, being as I'm aiming at less experienced folks, that it might be better for me to just keep discussing the concepts, walking through everything. Sort of like Bob Ross when he's painting. He always repeats and reinforces previous subjects, making sure that they're properly clear. Let's see, 4.7K there. Of course, all of the values are printed on the board, so that makes it a lot easier. All right. $4.7K there. And there's probably a bunch more down, acting as, I think, voltage dividers for the blinking lights here. Yeah, 4.7K, there we go. I'll have to see if I can track down a circuit diagram for this, maybe do an extra blurb video about the function of the circuit, how it reacts to the various different levels and frequencies, because I'm assuming it's got 3 frequency bands and then a relative indicator of intensity for those bands of frequencies. And then these resistors here, which are oh boy, where did that go? And where did it come from? 4.7K. Where did you ping out of? There it is. Right there. Alright. Yes, anyway, these resistors are... It looks like they are driving... Well, it looks like some of them are driving the bases of the transistors that we'll be using, and then others, it looks like they're acting as current limiters, but if they were current limiters, they'd probably all be the same. So yeah, I'm going to have to track down a circuit diagram for this if I can, and maybe do a quick analysis as another blurb, but there's no way I'm going to be reverse engineering this. This This is a very, very busy circuit. At least it's all one-sided board, so it wouldn't be too complicated, I guess. It would just take a long time because I'd have to trace out all of the various different stages. And that's just not something I'm particularly... Oops, keep dropping that resistor out. Not something I'm particularly overly excited about doing. Maybe somebody else can on a different channel. I don't know if I actually discussed this part on camera or not, because I don't know when my camera actually stopped recording, but and I should have covered this in the video at the time, but in my Game Boy video, where I was modding it with a USB charging cable, I placed solder on the tip of the iron and then put it on the joint. And I did that because I didn't have a lot of room to work. And I should have mentioned this on the video. It would have kept me from getting scolded in the comments. But, you know, I did that because there wasn't enough space on the board for me to hold down the wire, get the soldering iron in there, and get the solder in all at once. So I just brought solder to the joint on the tip of the iron, and I had to clean it up with a little bit of flux. The appropriate procedure, of course, is to put your soldering iron down, let it heat the joint for a moment, and then touch the solder. And the solder should just flow right on. Let's see. It's getting a little busy with all these wires. There we go. Alright, and there's the last joint there. Now we just trim off all of these leads for future storage in the bottle o' leads. Boy, I'm just having all manner of camera problems today. It just ran out of batteries, so now we've got a fresh battery in the thing, in the camera, I guess, and I'll keep a better eye on time. You know, I think I'm actually going to wrap it up here while I finish cutting these leads, because we're well over 20 minutes at this point, so I wanted to try to keep this down to 15-minute segments or so, but I was really hoping I could get all of the resistors done in one go, and then all of the diodes and so on and so forth. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. If you haven't already, consider clicking here to subscribe. Over here will be a video that YouTube thinks you find interesting based on your watching habits. Over here will be the kit builds playlist, or maybe the view meter playlist. And right here will be a link to Patreon, which you can use to support more videos like this. Thanks so much for joining me, and see you in part 2.